You know, here in our 21st century discussion that we've been having about the 21st century, not the Dark Ages. One of the big areas, and it's touchy to talk about, people get, all bent out of shape, is sex. And we have to face and direct and understand and come to kind of get a grip. Time to grow up about sex from what we know, what has worked, what doesn't work, and this whole thing of internet. As you all know, internet porn is big. And so many of you you've looked at it, maybe have friends or whatnot, also you, even download some, videos and stuff for yourself or whatnot. And it's like, yeah, so what? Oh, there's still some touchy aspects about it. Oh, geez, people get, well, he watches internet porn, or she was watching internet porn, or, they were. And it was supposed to be a dismissive thing. Because that's all that, the dismissive thing is all that still dark age stupidity. Limping along to try and shame and somehow that's bad. There's nothing inherently bad about it at all. At all. And all that ridiculous shaming and stupidity has kept us in a lot of needless sexual violence and sexual abuse, sex trafficking, and giving billions in dollars to criminal enterprises year after year who provide sex. Because the reality is people like sex. So we, in the 21st century, we run the business, not criminal enterprise. So when it comes to prostitution, we legalize prostitution. And just that's the way it is. We run it. We set the term. We have age access controls. We have structure. We have sanitation. We have health care. We have oversight. Okay. And that's 21st century intelligence. Now, as an example here of the ignorance and the stupidity being involved in all this crap, there was a thing, you can find it on the internet again, of course. There's this guy who was the Attorney General in New York, I think it was, Eliot Spitzer. And boy, he was doing great work. He was suing corporations left and right for their criminality, for their fraud. This was after, the Republican-generated Bush-Cheney collapse, and which is what Republican economics is about, of course, is collapse and giving a ton of money to the rich and corporations. Well, they, after 2008, you remember, they collapsed. Well, it was easy to find that these big corporations were involved in fraud. They were lying to you. They were lying to the investors. They were ripping off pension funds and lying to them and all sorts of crap. And here's, quite appropriately for what we have the Attorney General for, in your state as well as in the national government, is to, be the top lawyer, is to protect you. So Eliot Spitzer is out and successfully suing, bringing lawsuits against all these corporations. And, these Republican corporations, they didn't like it. Oh, they didn't like it. So what did they do? They hunted around And they brought it out through their propaganda that Eliot Spitzer was going to a prostitute. Oh, geez, yeah. Oh, he was going to a prostitute. Yes, that's right. You'd say, so? Well, this is still, not that long ago, but it's, still a little ways back there. It was enough that people were supposed to get all in a huff and a puff about it and get all worked up and say, oh gosh, he's immoral. He's going to a prostitute? And so he had to resign, which, folks, the key point was it stopped the investigations into all that Republican corporate fraud that was being perpetrated against you. Republicans worked it out. Corporations worked it out. And all they had to do was come up to something that was supposed to get you, the public, all worked up and say, oh boy, oh moralism, oh gosh, he was going to a prostitute. Oh geez, he has to quit. Because even though a lot of you were going to prostitutes, even though a lot of you were looking at pornography on the internet, suddenly if it's a politician or a public figure like that, somehow, oh geez, you just can't allow that. Oh boy, even though he's protecting you, even though he was correctly suing corporations for their massive fraud against you. See, that's the dark age crap still. That's still the dark age crap. Now, another example is, of course, not, again, by Republicans, was their hypocrisy of attacking Bill Clinton when he was president. And they spent over $40 million of your taxpayer money to find something. Bill Clinton, he must have been doing something criminal. Oh, geez, he must have gone, where was it? And they found nothing. All they did was found out that Bill Clinton was having a sex affair, an extramarital sex affair, and he lied about it. That was it. And so they brought impeachment against him. Oh boy, you're supposed to get all worked up about it. Well, for once, the American public didn't get worked up about it. It fell flat. Republicans thought this was going to raise the moral indignancy of the public, and it fell flat. And then look what happened. These grotesque things that are called Republican hypocrites. Look what happened. They got Trump, this guy who goes to prostitutes, who has is a profligate extramarital wacko, And suddenly the Republicans don't mention that or care about that at all because he's Republican. But also in the big view, it also has diminished the impact of that whole ridiculous issue anyway. During the Bill Clinton thing, by the way, there was, you still hear about him, a Republican nut called Newt Gingrich. And he was the chief guy who was, leading this Republican charge to harass and try and give a legislative coup d'etat against Bill Clinton. And then Newt Gingrich had to quit. He had to quit. Oh, there were some excuses. But the real thing going on was Newt Gingrich was having an extramarital affair and lying about it. And the news media was coming on to mention that. Typical Republican hypocrisy, fraud. So Newt backs out. And they put in this other guy, Livingston. And he lasts only a couple weeks because it came out that Livingston was having an extramarital affair and lied about it. So their whole thing, this moral indignancy and whatnot, collapsed. Justifiably. Who cares? So what? You go to a prostitute, so what? So what? You look at internet porn, like millions and millions obviously do. So what? So what that you smoke pot? Or maybe you still do smoke pot. So what? Do we say, oh, gee, he drinks a beer. He's bad. He drinks a beer. She has a drink of alcohol. Oh, geez, that's too bad. Oh, gosh, no. She had birth control, and she did use birth control. And she even had an abortion. And so she can't be a politician. Oh, gosh, no, she can't. That kind of wacko stuff is the demented stuff the Republicans are still trying to drum up to deflect from Republican economic fraud, scandal, and failure, poison and pollution against you. Not the issues. They don't want to talk about the issues of what Republicans actually have done. They just want to talk about, find something that we can bring up about them and say, and get people, get who worked up about that? Who cares? In the 21st century, intelligent people, so what? She's homosexual. Oh, you can't vote for her. She's homo. Oh, he's homosexual. You can't just vote. You hear it. That's a new one. Another one still going on. That's also fading away. The homosexual thing. It's still out there. Who are the ones who are trying to make it a big, scary deal? Republicans. Christian right-wing nut Republican wackos. Lunatics. And they're using it intentionally just to keep their corporations getting the money. That's the real thing. It's really nothing to do with their ridiculous hypocrisy of morality. It doesn't have anything to do with that. As this excuse. They pandered to these Christian wackos for years to make sure they vote Republican, so they keep, supporting, no birth control, no abortion, oh geez, no, gosh, no. And so Republican dimwits, they just, Republican Christian wacko dimwits, they just go ahead and say, I'm going to vote Republican because then they'll block abortion. And that's it. Even though Republicans are destroying the climate for them and their kids, which is supposedly all these babies they're having, and even though Republicans are blocking access to health care for children, that, supposedly you're going to have all these kids and you're going to have health care, and Republicans are continually destroying the economy as well. And all they care about is to make sure these dimwits vote because of abortion. See? Ridiculous stuff. That's all that dark age thing we've been talking about. In the 21st century, intelligent people have thrown all that stuff aside. You get it. You've woken up. You get it. You've gone beyond all that Christian wacko myth stuff, fraud. You've gone past all this repression of women thing. You push that aside. You've gotten past this whole thing about the policy of prohibition. And you totally agree, you've got to legalize drugs. You've got to legalize prostitution so we run the business, not criminal enterprise. Because the business exists. It does exist. Humans have an interest in intoxication, and they have an interest in sex. So in we're going to face reality, and we're going to run the business. See? It's 21st century. Reality. Same with internet porn. It's like, yeah, so what? Yeah, there's internet porn. Yeah, so what? You throw that aside as saying, oh, instead of the dark age, oh boy, scary, oh no, keep, oh, jeez. Well, it's this. It's another statement of the interest people have, pretty big interest humans have, in sex. Right? That's what we're saying about this thing about the 21st century. And these are examples of it, of the things you're leaving behind. You've outgrown. You got it. You've awoken. We say you've come into the light from these myths and repressions and this religious wacko-ness and this Republican propaganda fraud from Fox News and right-wing talk radio and all that type of crap. You've left all that behind. And it goes into economics, and of course as well, because you get it. Just like this lawsuit you should look up right now that's going on against the U.S. government, Juliana versus the U.S. government, where, 21st century people, young kids in fact, are suing the U.S. government for its failure to protect citizens from the disaster of climate change. And it's moving through the court system. And they're, pretty successful. And it's that attitude that is finally also saying, wait a minute, we are first. Human beings are first, not business entities, not business enterprises. Business enterprises cannot poison our air. Humans are first. Business entities cannot poison our water. We are first. Business entities can't deliver us to our grocery stores vegetables that are still covered in pesticide and other kind of poison residue. Humans are first. That's the 21st examples here of the 21st century attitude. That you got it. You got it. You understand it. You've let it go. You've come out of the dark. You have stood in the light. You are the candidate who's advancing this agenda of intelligence and reality. You are the light.